Real Talk Radio.
Party. Alright, what's going on, everyone? Real Talk Radio with Dan Lane. Gonna go ahead and get into an announcement. Tonight's Metal Mayhem will be at 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Probably an encore show following. And looking into extending these shows to different forms, different natures, of course. So, guys, be on the lookout. If you don't have the Spreaker app, download it from the Play Store, your App Store, whatever. Follow Real Talk Radio with Dan Lane's channel, and you'll be given live email notifications when I go live. That way you don't miss anything. A lot of people are like, I miss half the show. Well, had you had Spreaker, the second I hit that live button, you get an email. Boom, just like that. Click on it, you catch the whole show. So, if you missed it, sorry. It'll be alright. So anyway, today's show about the Syrian strikes. I was going to respond to the serious stuff last night, but when I realized, it's going to be like before, ultimately it will be just a limited strike. It won't itself cause a larger war, so maybe I could put it on the back burner and actually get some sleep. Also, I wanted to see what response Russia would have in the day after, and indeed their response has been, well, as everyone knows, and as predicted, they haven't responded. I mean, despite Putin's threats of serious consequences following the strikes, they haven't responded. So, that's either got me worried or it's got me content. Or there's something going on that we don't know. Maybe Trump and Putin came to a certain agreement. Okay, we'll launch on these particular targets, blah, blah. Mainstream media is not going to tell you anything. They're just going to give you a bunch of hoopla like they always do. But, of course, I evaluate and I look through different sources. And then I give my political response, my predictions, of course, for the future. Anyway. Well, I mean, it's hey, what's up? Ultimately, though, Russia took no real military action. Now, first, my moral feelings on, well, more in general, I'm anti-war. I'm not for going to war. I think we have peaceful means to resolve issues. It doesn't include lopping missiles into a city, when the only concern was that Assad supposedly gassed kids, but then we're going to lock missiles in there and kill even more kids. It's kind of like the double standard. I mean, I don't know. But, this was an act of war, and Syria had every right, as Russia had every right to respond because it is an act of war. And so, you do not have to, but when did we as a society decide that you had to march troops into a foreign nation in order to be at war with someone? No, I mean, bombing another nation, another sovereign nation, potentially, by the way, killing civilians in the process, that is war, by the way. Now, why is it that the same people over the years, I get frustrated at this, the same people who for years called out Obama for what he did which is, hey, you're still conducting a drone war in multiple nations. All of a sudden, they have no problem with this, so long as Trump is in office, because they're partisans, or they're so MAGA that they're not willing to criticize Trump. It's the same bullshit that happened with Obama. Even if you're a partisan like Democrat or something, the very least be consistent. If you called out W for warmongering, you have to call out Obama too, or you're a hypocrite. If you called out Obama and then called out Bush, most Trump fans are not Bush fans. It's because there are no Bush fans. Then called out Trump. It's an act of war. We bombed Damascus. It's fair. It's cut and dry. There's no opinion. There's no subjectivity in it. It's an act of war. If it weren't for the fact that we have nuclear weapons in Syria, and Syria is not capable of fighting back, they would have declared it an act of war and begun fighting us. Now, here's the silver lining. The silver lining is that there was one good effect of the entire thing, which is that Russia blinked. They're not going to own up to it, but it's fairly evident that the claims that Russia was going to retaliate, and they didn't. So did Syria retaliate? No. I mean, it's just weird what's going on. And then you saw Trump's mission accomplished tweets today. I was like, wait a minute. What did you do? I mean, Syria didn't fight back. Russia didn't fight back. There was no response. It was France, the UK, and the US that conducted airstrikes. Syria supposedly has anti-ship missiles that could have been able to hit us. They have all these wonderful modern anti-air systems. They should have bullseyed our jets out of the sky, but we walked out of there with no casualties. We suffered no repercussions. Russia blinked. They didn't follow through with their threat. Trump did. See? And I think that's basically what it is. It's just to show the world, that we mean business. I mean, Russia didn't go through with their threats, but Trump did. Now, that's one aspect of the puzzle to look at. We're like, hey, we're going to hit Syria. Oh, I didn't say it was going to be anytime soon. He's keeping them on their toes. It's the only good thing about the situation is that it shows Russia is not apparently willing to back Syria to the extent of risking a larger war with the United States. But we have to understand why that's important. In a broader context, it's not about Syria. Fuck Assad. It's not about him. It's not about, I don't even believe the claim, by the way, that Assad gassed his own people. It makes no sense. I don't believe, by the way, that Assad was the one that deployed chemicals. I think the FSA did that in order to get the world to retaliate against Assad, to try to loosen his control over the particular region that was hit by this gas, so they could escape and they could go regroup and continue their civil war. That's what I think. I think that's what they wanted. We have to understand all of this in a larger context, which is the grand chessboard. Nothing to do with Syria. No, it's not Iran. It's Russia. Ultimately, this is all the ultimate. All these interventions in the Middle East, they don't have to do with oil. They don't have to do with resources. They're not resource wars. There are no resource wars going on. People talk about the petrodollar. They have no clue what they're talking about. It's the grand chessboard. It's the same bullshit that's been going on all the way through now. There was a very brief period after the collapse of the USSR when people who are liberals are controlling Russia. I think at the time there was an honest effort by both sides, having formerly been at odds at each other's throats. There was, I think, an effort to denuclearize the losing side, if I remember correctly, that fell through when hardliners like Putin ended up taking control, which is why everyone in the West has a stick up their ass about him. I mean, think about Putin. He's managed to preserve the Russian state as a nuclear power. As you know, the other main nuclear powers of the world. It shouldn't be economically feasible for a country with an economic... Damn. Sorry about that. Oops. Okay. Had a little miscount there. I don't know what the hell that was. Anyway, no. Drinking coffee and doing shows just don't mix. So it shouldn't be economically feasible for a country with an economy that's so much smaller than the USSR now, a lower population, a much diminished global diplomatic impact. They shouldn't be able to maintain that military posture. And eventually, by the way, it does destroy the nation of Russia. I hope people realize this. Trying to maintain that military edge in the nuclear department is not going to be economically feasible. You'll fall further behind in other measures that eventually countermeasures will be developed by the West. And that's, we will win, but then we will lose anyway, because, it's kind of, economically, it's going to hurt us. This war, if it breaks out into another proxy war, it's going to hurt us economically. All that stuff that Trump worked for, bringing back jobs, raising the stock market, all of that is going to go down, immensely. Because right now, we cannot afford another proxy war. We just can't. It's just a matter of time. The Russian state could actually cause a nuclear war by acting improperly to their own detriment. Oddly enough, we have to understand this is in the broader context of the grand chessboard. There is, in the wake of Putin, in the wake of refreezing of relations, after the invasion of Georgia, essentially Putin, late Bush era through the Obama era. Dude, don't you find it funny that through the course of only a few years, one administration, another administration, and now you barely over a year, and a third that relations went from relatively jovial, Russia was not considered a problem in the 1990s in the wake of the USSR. Kids never die. We heard of all these gases and all this stuff. When I grew up, when I thought about Russia, it was just another country. They drink vodka or whatever. That's all I thought about Russia. There was no sort of war-footing propaganda. There was no Russian collusion bullshit, which is propaganda again. That's not actually true. The Mueller probe as a cover for other things, trust me, but there was an honest effort to achieve true relations. It fell through because of Georgia being invaded by Putin. That's essentially what began. And now we're back on a Cold War footing. So an attempt is now being made by the same way war hawks, which is what they are, to do what we're always trying to do before, which is once and for all, destroy the other pole of power in the world. It could be why we're aligning. I think that could probably be why we're aligning China right now, to try to keep them from, so supplanting us in the economic department to the extent to which they become the other main superpower. But no, there's a lot going on behind this. It's not just about Assad. Fuck Assad. Nobody cares. The very fact that he's winning the civil war over there, okay? There's an attempt of Islamic overthrow. They're winning the civil war. Putin goes in there. We go in there. We help stabilize the region, or at least that's what they're appearing to do anyway. And then, as everything's starting to balance out, and Assad is on top, and he's got his regime developed, guess what? We start to pull out. In the wake of that, Assad just decides, hey, all this we worked so hard for, to destroy the enemy and stabilize the region, now I'm going to destabilize it again by gassing my own people. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. This isn't about Syria. This is about Russia. It's, Trump has shown the world. Now, I don't agree with what he did. I don't agree in war at all. I'm totally anti-war, because we don't go to war for, because there's an actual threat to the United States. It's not the reason we go to war. We go to war for business reason, bipartisan issues, political agendas, things like that. And that's terrorism. That's terrorism, because in order for anything to be an act of terror, like if you just go and you shoot some people up, that's not an act of terrorism. If there is a political agenda behind it, that defines terrorism. That defines what a terrorist is. So that's all we did. We went over there and we just showed the world that despite the threats that potentially, we face now, which I think the only threat we really face right now is all-out nuclear war. That's the grander threat. But we have to show the world the United States has to be the badass. And I think personally that the whole thing, the whole gassing, was just another false flag to get us in there. I mean, where have we heard this before? Oh, Saddam Hussein has WMDs. We don't have any proof of it. We've never seen them, but we're going to go attack. And then you find out 10 years later, after we've pulled out, they declassified the fact that they never found any WMDs. So we were over there for nothing, absolutely nothing. But the only thing we did was we took out the dictator of Iraq, which created a vacuum. ISIS became a thing. It became stronger, became militant, became an actual force to be reckoned with. And now they're over in Syria. If we just left Assad alone, if we left Saddam alone, if we left Gaddafi alone, if we left all of these dictators alone, the world would be more stable. Yes, they are. They're dictators. Of course they are. They don't treat their people very well, but they keep them in line. Saddam would have kept ISIS from ever becoming a thing. He kept his people in check. But no. And it's the same thing we've seen. One false flag after the other. Pearl Harbor, they knew the Japanese were on their way. They knew they didn't respond. We had warships out there. They could have started fighting and sending missiles out there before they even got into our waters. But we didn't. We allowed them to come in here. The Gulf of Tonkin that got us into Vietnam, that's been proven to be a false flag. All this stuff comes out later, and it turns out that the tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists, in contrast to this right here, they're right. Anybody that ever tells you this is a false flag, it's bullshit. They think it's all legit. They get behind a nation because you can't just go to war. You can't just make a decision to go to war without the approval of the American people. The reason that is because you have to make sure that you have support of the American people if you intend to get elected again. So they have to create this scenario. They have to dehumanize, the opposition. They have to say, oh, he's this animal. He bombs children and he gasses his own people and he destroys them and blah, blah, blah. Just totally demonizes these people, right? Then you get the backing of the American people, and guess what? We go to war, and not a tear is shed. You get a few tree huggers out there that'll post memes with them standing in front of whatever flag we're attacking, and send thoughts and prayers to them. But that's about it. Nobody actually is anti-war. Not in the grander scheme of things, because mainly what they do is just sit behind their social media platforms and bitch about it. And, that's about it. That's not doing anything. Everybody knows that we're honed into our social media. They're not going to care. We could go to nuclear war tomorrow. No one would even know. It's because people don't, they take what they see on mainstream media at glance. And most of the time, they just look at the title of the damn article that's being presented, and they don't even read it. They just share it with an angry face or a sad face, presenting it as truth, and I think that's very unhealthy. So no, I wanted to make sure that I didn't jump on here and get involved in my feelings, because I was rather pissed off when I was watching the footage of the missiles being deployed. And I got to say, I'm not anti-Trump, because he has done a lot of good things. The TPP abolished, the tax reform, working on the healthcare program, things like that, stabilizing the economy, bringing back jobs, things like that. I mean, he's done a lot of good things, and he's human, so he's going to make some mistakes. But I have to be the first to, report on it. I mean, I know I'm not the first to report on it. Mainstream media is the first to report on it, and that's why they get 90% of what they say wrong. I don't think all in all it's because they're just selling you a bunch of bullshit. I think they want to be the first to report the news. And so I sat back and read different newsletters that were being written about it. I was watching Syrian news, watching Russian news, and I just had to kind of dig deeper past, the veil before I gave my opinion. So I don't know. I personally, I don't think that there's going to, at this point right now, there's not going to be a larger war because of what just happened. Apparently now, from what I'm understanding, we're pulling out now. That's what I'm understanding. Now, that could either be a good thing or a bad thing. Putin could very well be waiting on the moment where the United States is most vulnerable and just start launching nuclear missiles all over the place in retaliation. That could very well be. But it could also be that Putin's not willing to start a large-scale nuclear war over a few missiles launched into Damascus. The man's not stupid. And no one's going to win a nuclear war. And I think even both sides know that. I think we all know that if one country starts launching nukes, and everybody's going to start launching nukes, and that's going to be the end of it. So, no, I don't think that a larger war is going to develop because of this. I mean, if anything, it would ultimately depend on what actions we take from this point forward. But now, if Trump is backing out now after just proving that he's not a Russian agent, then I see that right there. You still have people. Now, I wonder how many people tomorrow, even after all this, when it just goes worldwide, that Trump made the decision to look past Russia's threat and launch missiles anyway. It's pretty evident that he's not a Russian agent. So what will they come up with next? I mean, I just hope this wasn't an ego thing, I mean, it's like, okay, well, for a long time, the United States has been given over to other countries of less economic power because of nuclear arms. And I think that's why Obama bowed down. I mean, I think, Obama bowed down to the Saudi Arabian king, dude. Like, seriously? Trump, didn't even shake his hand. Trump just looked him straight in the eyes like, yeah, okay. This is how it's going to be. This is what we're doing. I admire that Trump's got a lot of balls. But don't think with those balls. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, that's my whole thing on it. So, I mean, as things develop, I'm going to keep my eyes on it. Guys, don't forget to tune in to Metal Mayhem tonight at 11 p.m. Going to have a pretty good show tonight, as always. Drink some beer, play some jams, have a good time. May have a little bit of a crowd over here. I haven't decided just yet, though. You never know what's going to happen. Anyway, so you guys get the Spreaker app. You can go to your app store on iPhone or your Google Play Store. Look Spreaker up. Download it into your phone. Go and click on one of my shows. Click on the profile. Hit the follow button, and you'll be given live email notifications in the event that I do go live. So you guys take care. Have yourselves a blessed Saturday. Whatever you choose to do tonight, be smart about it.
Real Talk Radio.